Mr. Brooks, I couldn't help but notice that you kind of look like a principal.
A principal?
Yeah, principal.
Well, if I was a principal, the school system would be a lot different, okay? So, no, I don't think they'd want me. I think they'd fire me probably after the first day. But if you, I don't know if that's a compliment or you're ridiculing Mr. Brooks. But in any event, this is the Dawn Brooks Show. Welcome. Again. See, we can't even get serious. And we have a Miss Von Burton, you know we have a serious subject to talk about.
I'm sorry, you just look like I'm in the principal's office.
Okay. Well, be a good student. Folks, we're going to talk about, well, the name of the episode will tell you what we're going to talk about. Capital punishment. Pros and cons. Now, you're going to say, how can there be a pro and a con? It depends on what perspective you're coming from. Proponents of capital punishment are going to say they're all pros. And people who don't believe in capital punishment are going to talk about the other side. But I want to talk about some things. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I'm for capital punishment because it's a personal thing, and basically you shouldn't even care how I feel, but I want to tell you some things, some facts. First of all, in some cases, capital punishment when a family member is a victim of capital punishment, when their son, daughter, or whatever, capital punishment can bring closure to families, some families. That could be a pro if you are a victim of, not where you wouldn't be a victim of, someone in your family would be a victim of capital punishment. It could bring closure. A lot of people say that capital punishment is a deterrent. I've never believed that. I think when a person kills someone, it's either premeditated and they think they're smart enough to get away, or they do it in a moment of anger and they're not thinking about what's going to happen. So I've never really thought it was a deterrent. And what if the person that is incarcerated waiting to be executed is innocent? My first case in point. And by the way, capital punishment is something that goes on in many countries, and the United States is not the only one. They have capital punishment in Japan. A gentleman named, this is a sad story, and I'll let you decide whether or not you think it has a happy ending. And I'm probably not pronouncing the name correctly, so forgive me. Awao Hakamata. Awao Hakamata was convicted for killing two people in, get this, 1966. 1966. 58 years ago. He was on death row in 5 decades. Over 50 years, he was on death row. He had a lot of appeals, but he was on death row that long. Now, if he's guilty, okay, so be it. But he was found innocent. Think of what I just said. The longest person on death row, he was found innocent. When he was put on death row, he was accused of killing his boss, and I think one of his boss's relatives. And the evidence they had against him was that there was blood on his trousers that supposedly came from him and the bosses during the struggle. However, there was not DNA testing in 1966. So that was the strongest evidence they had against him. Subsequently, he was put in prison, put on death row. Thankfully, he had some lawyers that were able to stay his execution and appeal. And then it was found that the blood was not his through DNA testing. So the reason I say you decide whether or not that was a happy ending or not, of course it was a happy ending. But the gentleman today is 88 years old. 88 years old. Where's the justice in that? And while he was incarcerated in prison, he started having mental problems. Of course he did. But he's out of prison now. But what does that tell you? The death penalty is not 100%. And hooray for him for getting out. Sorry that you stayed in prison that long. But somebody got away with murder. Somebody got away with murder. 1966, that person could still be living. He's still living. Got away with murder. So, if you talk about the death penalty, whether are you for it or not, think first. Then you want to look at the race thing. In 2024, there are 21 people on death row. One is an Indian American, one is Hispanic, and or maybe two is Hispanic, and 9 apiece. 9 are black, 9 are white. Now that doesn't really bear out right. You got almost 50% of people on death row that are black, and we only know black are about, 14 or 15% of the population? So the death penalty is something that needs to be looked at. And another question I look at, and I don't know the answer to this one, Ms. Von Berg. I'm going to ask you. I'll tell you my opinion. There was a man that was executed not too long ago. What was his name? I think I have his name on here. No, I don't have it.
Hold on. This is embarrassing because we can't remember his name.
As you know, the Dawn Brooks Show is spontaneous, folks, so just bear with us while we get this together. And that's what I like about the Dawn Brooks Show. While you're finding that out, Ms. Von Burton.
Marcellus Williams.
Yes. He was executed in October, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was supposed to be, had mental problems.
Really?
Yeah. If that's the one I'm thinking about, I might have the names mixed up.
Well, I don't.
You don't think that's the one?
I don't think
I should
so.
have him here.
Marcellus Williams was executed recently after being prosecuted for the murder of Felicia Gale, but he maintained his innocence all the way until the very end.
Oh yeah, that's the one that not only did he maintain his innocence, he had the Innocence Project, saying that he was innocent, and the district attorney said that he should be retried. The person that tried him, but they still executed him, and I'm going to have to apologize for not finding the name of this person. I wanted to do it, but it's important to his family. But for this Dawn Brooks Show, it's not as important. This gentleman was found guilty of killing someone, his own son, 3-year-old son. He sodomized his son. And then his son started crying, and he killed him and banged his head in. Yeah, he killed him. But the thing about it, he was found to be mentally ill. Now the question, Ms. Von Bergen, do you think a person who's certifiably mentally ill should be put to death?
No, I'm not without assessing, like doing a deep assessment of their mental health, but I don't necessarily think that the death penalty should be the immediate first answer. I'm not saying I'm against it completely. I just think that it would need to be assessed first.
Well, yeah, I can see that point, and I'm just another thing to think about. In my definition of a person being insane is anybody that murders someone. He can't be logical. You have to be insane to take another person's life. That's what I believe.
But it's not always like that, though. There are people who are completely sane and kill people.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think that if you take somebody's life, something's wrong with you.
Absolutely.
Something's wrong. So I'm saying to myself, how do you differentiate? I don't know. But there's a lot of things we talked about when it comes to the death penalty. And the very last point I want to make, a gentleman was, again, this person admitted to killing the person. He robbed a convenience store. These things all happened recently. He robbed a convenience store, and without a gun, he went in there without a weapon to rob the gun. He and the clerk or whoever was in the grocery store, the convenience store, got into a tussle. He took the gun away. In the struggle, the clerk was killed. Now, they say that first-degree murder, if to get the death penalty, you have to have two things. It has to be premeditated. And if you go into and his defense said, and you think about this, his defense said, yeah, he killed the person. He admitted that, but he didn't have a weapon. So how would it be premeditated if he's going into the place without a weapon? He said he killed the man, but he said that was not his intention. I think life imprisonment or manslaughter might have been a better verdict, a better punishment. So there's a lot to be. We can be here all along for hours talking about the death penalty. And note that I didn't say if I was for or against it, and I'm not. But I tell you one thing I am against. I'm against what they're doing with Rodney Reed. How long has he been on death row? Over 25 years. We don't know if he's innocent or guilty. We probably never know. But justice is moving very slow in that case. So, something to think about. Like I said, this was a subject that just was food for thought, if you will. We'll see you next time.